Keeping them honest, a matter of protection and a question of retribution. Now, in the space of 2 days, the new president signed executive orders ending Secret Service protection for three former officials: former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, his former top aide Brian Hook, and former National Security Advisor John Bolton. Now, the president this week also fired Hook from a prestigious think tank position. All three served in the first Trump administration, and while it's not clear to us immediately what his beef may be with Hook, the president has repeatedly attacked Bolton and Pompeo after they offered criticism of him. Here's what the president said when asked about revoking Pompeo and Hook's protection.
Do you want to have a large detail of people guarding people for the rest of their lives? I mean, there's risks to everything.
Well, certainly the costs of protection are high, millions of dollars a year sometimes, and there are limits about how long it can last. But in this case, many of those risks stem largely from actions their former boss took, killing a top Iranian general 5 years ago, which to this day he considers one of his proudest accomplishments.
Last night, at my direction, the United States military successfully executed a flawless precision strike that killed the #1 terrorist anywhere in the world, Qasem Soleimani. Soleimani was plotting imminent and sinister attacks on American diplomats and military personnel, but we caught him in the act and terminated him.
Now, confronting Iran in that and other ways throughout the first Trump administration made Hook and Mike Pompeo and John Bolton targets. It also made President Trump a target after he lost the election as well, which we reported on a number of times. You'll remember then candidate Trump sought his own added protection toward the end of the campaign. The headline there reads, "Trump requests military aircraft and vehicles amid Iran threat." A threat the president was warned still exists, according to the New York Times, as Maggie Haberman, citing 4 sources familiar with the matter. That warning, Maggie writes, came from the outgoing administration, which John Bolton credited yesterday, talking to CNN's Jake Tapper.
You know, when President Biden, recognizing the threat against me and several other current and former U.S. government officials, authorized the Secret Service to restore protection, which I had had when I was National Security Advisor, I'm sure he probably wasn't the happiest man in the world because of the criticisms that I've made of him on his foreign policy. But he did it because it's simply not permissible to allow a rogue state like the terrorist in Iran to threaten Americans.
Well, Bolton seems to be suggesting there, in praising the Biden administration's decision to protect him, despite him being a critic of then President Biden, is that President Trump is doing the opposite, that he's doing it for payback. But it's not so cut and dry. While the Biden administration continued Secret Service protection for Bolton, Hook, and Pompeo, they did end protection in 2023 for another former Trump National Security Advisor, Robert O'Brien, and they never really explained why. Wall Street Journal investigated and got no comment from the Secret Service.